Okay, let's dive right in. When you hear the words pest control, what exactly pops into your head? Maybe you picture grabbing some off-the-shelf bug spray from the local hardware store, or maybe you imagine someone in a Ghostbuster-style suit spraying along baseboards. Well, what if I told you that true professional pest control, what the industry calls the DDD sector, standing for deratization, disinsectization, and disinfection, is actually one of the most intensely regulated, high-stakes professions out there? Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to pull back the curtain on this massive, hidden system that literally acts as our very first line of defense for public health. We're breaking down the strict European and Spanish regulations, the intense certifications, and the incredibly heavy responsibilities these unsung heroes carry on their shoulders every single day.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to look at the real impact of pests, then move into the European legal framework, how companies actually get accredited, what goes into the professional certificate, and finally, we'll wrap up with the technician's day-to-day responsibility.
Starting off with Section 1, the impact of pests.
We really need to completely redefine our idea of what a pest is. We're not just talking about a minor annoyance here. We're talking about serious biological threats. Pests transmit severe pathogens, things like Salmonella, Leptospira, and even Zika and dengue. I mean, think about it. A single Salmonella outbreak in a restaurant, that doesn't just mean a bad review online. It means contaminated food, thousands of euros in massive administrative fines, business closures, and honestly, total economic ruin. Plus, rodents can just chew right through cables and pipes, causing devastating structural fires or massive water damage. The stakes we're dealing with here are quite literally life, death, and livelihood.
And because the threat is so incredibly severe, the response has to be equally massive. 500 million. That's $500 million. That is the estimated annual billing in euros of just the Spanish DDD sector alone. So this isn't some niche little side hustle. It's a booming, massive industry made up of over 3,000 authorized companies. They're out there operating across the food industry, hospitality, public administration, and healthcare. It's a highly necessary sector that demands absolute professionalism.
Which brings us to Section 2, the European legal framework.
So a really crucial point here is understanding what these professionals are actually using in the field. They use biocides. According to the European Biocidal Products Regulation, or BPR for short, a biocide is basically any substance or mixture intended to destroy, deter, or control a harmful organism. Now, it's absolutely vital to distinguish here that the biocides used in urban environments, like say inside a packed restaurant or a sterile hospital room, are completely different from agricultural pesticides used out on crops. You definitely cannot just spray a garden pesticide indoors. They require completely distinct products, specific safety gear, and a totally different set of rules.
And let me tell you, these chemicals are so incredibly strictly controlled. Before a professional is ever even allowed to touch a biocide, it has to go through a rigorous 5-step authorization process. First up, the European Chemicals Agency evaluates the active substance itself. Then, a national authority, like the Ministry of Health over in Spain, has to specifically authorize that exact formulated product. After that, it gets mutual recognition across EU countries. It's commercialized with incredibly strict label requirements dictating exactly how and how much to use. And finally, it's subjected to periodic reviews. If any new risks pop up, boom, it's withdrawn. It's all about ensuring absolute safety for the public and the environment.
Moving right along to Section 3, company accreditation.
Enter the ROESP. This is the official registry of pesticide establishments and services. Now, this is an absolutely mandatory registry managed by the autonomous communities in Spain. If a company is out there providing environmental or industrial DDD services and they aren't on this list, their activity is completely 100% illegal. Operating without it leads to severe, literally business-ending sanctions. The ROESP acts as the ultimate quality filter, basically proving that a company has the right liability insurance, the proper storage facilities, and fully qualified personnel.
But this industry wasn't always this locked down. Back in 1983, we got the first real regulation of pesticide use and the actual creation of the ROSP. That was huge, kind of moving us away from a bit of a Wild West scenario. Then, in 1998 and later in 2012, the European Union stepped in to really harmonize all the rules with strict directives and the BPR. Fast forward to 2024, and Spain just updated the professional certificate via royal decree. So the trend is crystal clear, right? We're moving towards a highly professionalized, hyper-regulated environment where safety and knowledge are just absolutely paramount.
All right, Section 4, the professional certificate.
It really all boils down to the difference between domestic use and professional use. Literally anyone can walk into a local hardware store and grab a low-danger bug spray, but applying high-efficacy biocides in a commercial setting? No way. That requires an official applicator card net. You have to have a deep, deep understanding of safety data sheets, undergo continuous training, and maintain super strict documentation. And honestly, a client paying for professional DDD services has the absolute right to demand that level of certified, tested expertise.
Navigating all these overlapping rules is basically the technician's ultimate legal cheat sheet. It's wild to look at how they all interact. You've got Spanish royal decrees dictating your personal certificate and company registry. Then you've got European regulations dictating exactly how the chemicals you're using are authorized, classified, and labeled. And on top of all that, you have voluntary standards like integrated pest management, which focuses heavily on biological and physical controls before anyone ever resorts to using chemicals. Navigating this crazy matrix is exactly what makes someone a true professional.
And finally, Section 5, the technician's responsibility.
So it brings up a really vital question. What responsibility does the technician actually assume? Well, the answer is immense. An applicator faces administrative, civil, and sometimes even criminal liability if they act outside protocol or use unauthorized products. To give you a real-world example from our source material, there's actual legal precedent of a technician who used a biocide at a higher dose than authorized in a commercial kitchen. A cook ended up getting intoxicated from it, and that technician was convicted of severe negligence. This whole regulatory framework is there to protect the public, sure, but it also heavily protects the technician, as long as they respect it.
To manage this massive liability, the system brilliantly divides up the labor. First, you have the responsible technician. This is someone with a university degree in biology, veterinary science, or chemistry, who diagnoses the problem, designs the overarching plan, and signs off on it. Then you have the applicator technician, the pro with the actual carnet who goes out into the field to execute the treatment, record all the data, and strictly follow that protocol. It's a super clear distinction, and it ensures the applicator isn't taking on misdirected legal blame for the design of the plan. They just have to execute it flawlessly.
And how do they prove they executed it flawlessly? Documentation. Rigorous paperwork is not just annoying bureaucracy here. It is a literal legal shield. The work report details the pests found, the exact products used, the doses, and the strict safety wait times. Then there's the biocide service certificate, which proves the products are legally authorized for professional use. And get this, these records must be legally retained for a full 5 years. I really cannot stress this enough. In the eyes of a health inspector, if it is not documented correctly on these exact forms, it simply did not happen legally. Missing documents can lead to the immediate suspension of a whole company's activity.
I want to leave you with this really powerful thought from the source material. The qualified DD technician doesn't just apply products. They are the first guardian of public health. Think about that. When you go out to eat, when you visit a hospital, when you send your kids to school, you are being protected by this massive, invisible shield of European laws, Spanish registries, and highly trained professionals. They use their technical rigor and professional ethics to keep our environment safe from disease and total destruction. So next time you sit down at your favorite restaurant or walk the halls of a hospital, look around and ask yourself, who are the invisible guardians keeping this space safe? And what would happen if they slipped up? Thanks for joining me on this